Folks, Bet Online continues. This is not the beginning. This is the middle of that story. The world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, Bet Online provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. They've got the largest selection of odds on everything from football to the NBA and college basketball, hockey, UFC. So head to Bet Online today. Don't forget to use promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. But let's try that again. Bet Online. The game starts here. Welcome to the weekend recap edition of Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I'm your host, Dan Bespris. You can find me on Twitter at Dan Bespris, DANBESBRIS. I'm Old Man Squad over on Blue Sky, if you happen to be floating around over there, and Old Man Squad Fantasy on Instagram. As for the kids, man, Instagram's for the kids. Today's a reverse chronological lightning round. We're going to work our way backwards. Sunday's games, then Saturday's games, and then whoever didn't play Sunday or Saturday, and there were quite a few that we'll talk about from Friday's deal. I know we did a Saturday morning show that was basically like a weekend review, but it didn't specifically hit on the Friday games. And I think, if I'm remembering this right, I think everybody played exactly one time between Friday and Sunday based on the NBA Cup goofer schedule. So we can really just treat it as a 3-day backwards recap. And so to that end, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We are just mere inches away from 6,000. Oh, no, we hit it. It happened in the last few minutes, actually. Oh, that's exciting. Thanks, everybody. 6,000 subs. Hey-oh. Anyway, let's start the climb to the next one. So please hit that subscribe button. And, of course, Apple or Spotify listeners, drop that 5-star review. Let's get this bad boy cooking. New Orleans was in Indiana. No real surprises on the New Orleans side. And we'll try to move through this thing pretty quick on teams where there aren't interesting storylines to give us more time on the teams that there are. Brandon Boston had 20 points on 15 shots. He was jacking up a lot of looks in this one, but it's not something I'm going to do much with because he really didn't do anything else. So you're playing Herb, Trey Murphy, Yves Missi, DeJounte Murray, CJ McCollum, and you move on without really any other thoughts. For Indiana, Miles Turner, obviously, yes. Tyrese Halliburton, he's really come on after that very slow start to the year. Pascal Siakam's been about as consistent as humanly possible. TJ McConnell is kind of sliding back a little bit. Benedict Mathurin has completely fallen off a cliff. He's not even a guy that needs to be started anymore. McConnell's the one that I think I'd like to focus on because it looked like he was trending up for a little there. And I can't help but wonder if maybe he's trending back down because the Pacers are finding ways to win with the main guys, the guys that they sort of expected to be part of their winning lineups. So for McConnell, he's still kind of an intriguing combination of field goal percent and assists and usually steals. But at 20 minutes, it's not enough. We needed more like 23, 24, and he was getting that for a little bit in there. So more of an assist steals streamer than anything else. That doesn't hurt your field goal percent, but not a guy that you need to be starting in all formats all the time. Andrew Nembhard was a little bit better in this ballgame, and that's part of why McConnell's seen his role shrink a tad, is that Nembhard's been kind of inching back up the board. He's not a guy I care about in traditional 9-cat. And then Obi Toppin's been on a furious run lately. There's no denying that he's been hotter than heck. But we've seen this before. He's on a 55% shooting, 93% free throw clip over his last 10 ball games. 21 minutes a night is not a sustainable 9-cat fantasy guy. When he cools off, you'll see his minutes taper as well. You know that I don't chase hot players generally. And so I just kind of wanted to highlight him to say, look, if you're in the business of chasing, okay, fine. But for me, when a guy gets hot like that, it just moves him kind of up the schedule streaming use board. And for Indiana, that really isn't until the very end of this week when they have a back-to-back Sunday into Monday. So not super interested in Obi Toppin, even though he's been playing much better lately, and just wanted to address that. Boston beat Washington. No surprise there. Kristaps Porzingis left early with heel issues. Just played 11 minutes before taking off. Al Horford was being rested in this game anyway. So you got a heavy dose of Luke Cornett once Porzingis went down. I would assume that if this is a thing that lingers, that Horford would be the guy to bump back up again, just kind of like at the beginning of the year. Hopefully it was minor. Hopefully it was hey, we're playing Washington. We don't really need you in here if you're not 100%. That's kind of the way I would treat it unless we hear something else, although they don't play again until Thursday. So that kind of makes Porzingis a guy I would probably not start in a weekly league just with that kind of cloud hanging over it. I would also certainly wait until later in the week to do anything related to Al Horford if you were thinking about going that direction, just because, again, we don't know who's going to be in and who's going to be out. Otherwise, that's kind of what you're sitting on with the Celtics. Justin Champagnie is crushing right now. He's basically a second rounder since he took over this starting job 5 games ago. Yeah, I mean, he's not going to shoot 53% forever. I also don't think he's going to shoot 56% at the foul line, but his steals and blocks are extraordinarily high right now. He's rebounding his butt off. I think he's averaging something like 8 or 9 rebounds in this starting job. And like, he's the injury godsend of the week without question. So just make sure he's in your lineup, and this probably goes to crap if Brogdon or Kuzma ever shows up again for the Wizards. But honest to goodness, those guys might not suit up again for the Wizards. We know Kuz is on the trade block. You've got to assume that Brogdon is as well. This team is in tank mode, hard tank mode. And the only guy that sort of survives that's not like a rookie, basically, is Jordan Poole, who just keeps on dinking along with all these other guys. All that said, Justin Champagnie's a go. Poole's a go. Bilal's a go. He's come roaring back. Alex Sarr is an active stash. We've talked about him plenty on the podcast. He's a hard guy to start, but you probably just push through it in head-to-head. In Roto, you don't. He fouled out, by the way, in this ball game in 28 minutes, or that would have been a little bit better. And then Bub Carrington finally had a good ball game, but it took him like 3 or 4 tries to get there. So more watch list. It's also worth pointing out on the Wizards side that Jonas Valanciunas only logged 9 minutes in this game. He's been trending down as his minutes have been trending down because, again, it kind of feels like they're putting him in a bubble to make sure that they can move him. I don't think that's that far-fetched, is it? Kind of just keeping him on ice a little bit. All right, you'll get some cardio every once in a while, but they want to move him. And then JV probably would have some value, but, what do? Probably try to hang on a little bit. New York never short on playing starters minutes. Cat played 43 in this one. I love what Cat's doing this year. He's been awesome. He's number 5 in 9 Cat. He also feels a little bit like a ticking time bomb playing 35 minutes a night in a Tom Thibodeau team. But they're hanging on so far, and so as long as that's the case, you start the starters. Mo Wagner. Remember how we did like 4 minutes on the Magic? Well, it was longer than that. We did like a 20-minute podcast when Franz Wagner went down last weekend, not this past one. And one thing I noted was like, look, I think Mo Wagner is a guy who's going to pick up a bunch of usage. And he was sort of fine. There was nothing special going on with him for that first, 2-3 games without Franz. And then he popped off. And this is kind of what you were looking for. You're like, all right, can I catch the one lightning in a bottle game? He's not a guy I'm starting in Roto. That's way too dicey. They don't play again until Thursday. As another side note, they play on the high traffic days this week. But he's a guy that you could trot out there and feel somewhat confident he's going to take enough shots to score double digits. He'll get a couple of rebounds. He'll usually sort of find his way into some fantasy stats because he's hyper aggressive when the ball's in his hand. Tristan da Silva took 17 shots. You couldn't pay me enough to take a shot on him right now. Jonathan Isaac is a drop. Goga Bitadze is a hold. And, everything else is very much we can't get you guys open because we have nobody with gravity on our team right now. So Goga, yes. Suggs, yes. And Mo Wagner is your probably more of a schedule play guy, but you can keep an eye on him for more than that. Minnesota's defense is really locked in these days, which is kind of what they were going to hang their hat on this year when they unloaded Cat. They traded offense for defense. And we're in another one of these Jaden McDaniels heaters, which, I don't know how many times I'm going to get fooled by it, but he's been great in his last 2 ball games, just an absolute monster. Still, we've seen the Jaden McDaniels up and down countless times now. He typically doesn't take enough shots to consistently have fantasy value. 10 shots is close. That's what he took last night. If he did 10 shots every night, he'd be basically like king of the fillers, like number 105, 110 range. And that's probably what you're looking for with him. He doesn't hurt you in that many places. Percentages aren't very good. I guess maybe if those ticked up a tad, you could find another way to get him inside the top 100. I like him, but this never lasts for more than a couple of ball games. He's filler level fantasy play. And that's okay. There's a use for that in some formats, but not what I'm looking for in GamesCap Roto, to be sure. Filler guys are guys that you can very confidently play in a schedule stream. Like those are your favorite schedule stream guys because they're number 125. Nobody really wants them all year long, but they're putting up good enough numbers where if you just dropped them into a 4 games and 6 nights kind of thing, you'd be pretty happy with it. Mike Conley, 28 minutes. Still can't shoot. Can't figure how he can't get his shot to go. He's at 35% for the year still, and he's a 10th rounder despite all of that. He's so close, people. He's so close. I hope I don't have to keep telling you what to do there. You're hanging on is what you're doing. Wemby was good. Sohan was good. And that was kind of it over on the Spurs side. Chris Paul was bad. He did have 9 assists at least. Devin Vassell, 25 disastrous bench minutes. There is a whopper of a buy low window happening for Devin Vassell right now. A whopper. We talked about it last week, and it got worse. He's better than this. We know he's better than this. And he's just not, like, his legs aren't underneath him yet. But they will be. And you can get him for pennies now. So just keep exploring it. And by the way, this is why I was telling you guys not to be so hyper-confident in Stephon Castle. We always remember the games where he scores a bunch of points, but there's a reason he's ranked outside the top 200 on the year. It's because if the points aren't there, then things turn to crap real fast. Portland got both of the centers back that we'd rather they have this weekend. Donovan Clingan had 10 and 9. This was his second game back and a couple of blocks. Robert Williams played 17 minutes in his return from concussion stuff, and we know what damage he can do in 20 minutes. DeAndre Ayton missed this game with an illness. I don't know how long that crap lingers. Everything is always a thing with DeAndre Ayton. You know they're not going to push him at all because I honestly think they believe they're a better team when he's not out there. So what do? Simons is a guy that, remember a week ago or so, we said something like, well, he's a buy low, but can you get him low enough? And he's starting to rebound a little bit. Jeremy Grant is a guy you always try to sell when he has a couple of good ball games in a row. And then you just get into this mess of other stuff. DeAndre Ayton is a guy you sell when he's playing or has a good game. And Donovan Clingan and Robert Williams are kind of like these active stash types. Because Robert Williams is very much on the block. And if he gets traded to a contender that needs a center, you could see his minutes in the 20s, and you could see him as a legitimate difference maker on your fantasy team. And then how long before it all opens things up for Clingan? This is very, very team-dependent type of stuff. I think Clingan is going to be the easier one to roster because he'll play Ayton's backup minutes even when DeAndre's back. When DeAndre comes back, I'm not sure that Robert Williams gets to play in those games, maybe a couple of minutes, but certainly not a playable number. So he's a guy that more for Roto, Robert Williams, you're just stashing him. And when he has an opportunity to get minutes, that's when you drop him into your lineup and you're hoping that something kind of breaks in his favor. And it feels like it will. And then Clingan's more the active stash because he's a starter when somebody's out. And he'll play backup center minutes and post some kind of value even when the Blazers are more healthy. And no, I'm not a big guy. I'm not big into Denny Avdia. Free throw percent is bad. Turnovers tend to be high. Not many steals or blocks. He really needs to be a super high usage iteration of himself to get him on my fantasy team. The Phoenix Suns, once again, without Bradley Beal, but they got KD back, and so they're back to winning ball games again. I thought with Beal out, you might get a Grayson Allen game. And he was fine, but he wasn't great. Like, it did take 13 shots. I guess that's not nothing. Royce O'Neal, I can't bring myself to do the Royce O'Neal thing. And I know maybe I'm in the wrong on that one because the 3-pointers and the field goal percent combined lately have been good enough to start. But it also feels like that combination isn't a long-term thing. So without getting too far into the weeds on the Suns, you're obviously starting Durant and Booker. You'll start Beal when he's in, and Tyus Jones all the time as well. I'm not going to do the Royce O'Neal thing. I'm watching very closely what Grayson Allen is up to. And then Yusuf Nurkic finally looks like maybe he's getting a little bit of health. Still has issues with free throws, still has issues with turnovers. There's still a lot that's wrong with his fantasy game. But if you're punting free throws, he's very much a guy you're using. This is Nurk we're talking about right now. And if you're not punting free throws, he's probably a soft hold just on the hope that he can, head-to-head style, maybe you can catch him on a better foul shooting week and it'll give you a combination of boards and defensive stats without ruining things. It's iffy, but it's probably a yes. Luka had this is really like his first big Luka game of the year, but he's almost all the way back where we wanted him to be. He's number 6 in 9 cat now. Turnovers are actually a little bit better for Luka this season. Steals are very high. That's the thing right now. You figure the steals will probably come down, but the field goal percent probably continues to tick up, and he should remain in a pretty good spot. Klay Thompson finally had a good ball game. It's been a while for him. This pushed him back up inside the top 150. And I don't know, maybe it wakes him up. Maybe it was just because he was playing Golden State. I move on. I'm not in. You guys know this. I've said it 150 times. I'm not into Klay Thompson this year, and I'm not changing my valuation on anybody else on this team. You're playing the same main dudes plus Gafford off the bench. But yeah, I'm not a Klay guy. Warriors have Dennis Schroeder coming in, so that's going to shake things up a little bit. Presumably, he's taking Buddy Hield's spot in the starting 5. Andrew Wiggins is back. He's obviously a go again. He's been a much more aggressive version of himself this year. Jonathan Kuminga stayed in the starting lineup. They pushed Draymond Green to the bench, and Draymond took about as many shots as he'll ever take. So, I guess good to that end. Kuminga's, you're going to hold him, but he has huge 9-category fantasy issues. Much easier guy to just say, yeah, points league, go for it. He's a punt guy in various things. Like, he's not great at defensive stats. He doesn't rebound all that well for a power forward. He's going to score, though. That's Kuminga. And then with Schroeder coming in, I'll be honest, I don't know exactly what he's going to do. I think he probably trends towards a drop because Dennis needs to be a pretty high usage guy to actually hit fantasy value. But, yeah, you might as well just hold and wait and see on that one. And maybe this all ends up being good for Draymond Green. I guess we'll see. And the Lakers beat the Grizzlies. This score is actually wrong on Basketball Monster. It was 116-110. I don't know why that last 3 isn't up there. Zach Edey, we talked about him on last week's shows a couple of times with him coming back. He's a guy that definitely needs to be rostered because he's basically going to take Brandon Clark's job to be a giant person for Memphis. And there'll be some matchup stuff for him where against the Lakers yesterday, he was a better matchup because he's just huge, and the Lakers have absolutely no one that can deal with big-bodied centers. That's the Anthony Davis's kryptonite, is the big dudes. Hopefully they trade for someone. It's more of I would like to see the Lakers do something better for themselves. But in the meantime, while we're talking about Memphis, Edey needs to be rostered. He's not a big shot blocker, though. Just be aware that that's not like he's huge, but he doesn't block that many shots. So this is kind of the line that you're looking for, which is 13 and 10. A steal, a block, and good percentages. Desmond Bane, little miniature buy low window, back open again after some big ball games. I guess that's a possibility. Santi Aldama, are we finally going to see the end of this? Like, I don't know what he visited Jobu from Major League or something, but 51% he's down to now from the field. That's going to keep dropping until it's closer to where his career numbers are. So get what you can for Aldama if you can. And then Marcus Smart, I still think he's probably a drop, although I liked the 29 minutes in this one. It felt like that might have been more because they wanted him to guard LeBron. And so I don't know if that's a thing that's actually going to happen on a nightly basis. And JJJ, by the way, he fouled out. He hadn't had that many problems with fouls this year, but he did in this one, and that's more the Anthony Davis effect than anything else. Did we cover everybody there? Probably. Lakers. LeBron is back, so Rui Hachimura is someone you can probably dump. Max Christie's into the starting five, but you're not going to worry about that at all. Austin Reeves also back after a couple of ball games, or he's been back for a couple of ball games, I should say. And the Lakers went back to feeding Anthony Davis, who had a shoulder stinger in this one. We'll keep one eye on that just to make sure that it doesn't get sort of spiraling out of control. And then D'Angelo Russell, who's really just totally bottomed out. I've got to think that the Lakers are attempting to move him someplace because there just really isn't a spot for him right now. And I'll be honest with you guys, I don't really know what the right answer is on what to do with D'Lo in this moment. What I'm doing is holding. Head to head, you get what you get, as we say to the children, is you get what you get and you don't get upset. It's going to be ugly for some amount of time before it gets better, whether that's in LA or elsewhere. If you're Roto, you just put him on your bench. You can't really drop D'Lo because you know if he gets traded to a tanking team, and that's like the perfect case scenario for him, and they don't release him, and he gets to play 32 minutes a game and take 15, 16 shots, he's a top 40 guy waiting in the wings right now. And there's literally no one on the waiver wire that you can make even that I mean, there might be one or two guys, I guess. I shouldn't say no one. But there's so few players sitting out there where you're just like, look, all they need is this thing and then whammo. But D'Lo is that guy. So I get it. It's an impossible hold. You're certainly not starting him in weekly. You're not starting him in Roto. You're starting him in head-to-head, and you're just sort of wearing it, provided your team can stay afloat. And then you're hoping that either the Lakers figure out a better way to utilize him, which it's not happening anytime soon because they're actually trying to guard people now, or he gets moved. Let's go to Saturday after this commercial break. I'm realizing that drinking orange juice on a pod is not a good idea this morning, by the way, but we're going to push through. Creating a lot of saliva. Atlanta lost to Milwaukee. This was a NBA Cup game, and I mean, we got some pretty good lines out of it. Clint Capella continues to be a punt free throw play. Everything was good here except he went 0 for 2 at the foul line. Bogdanovich, I think we can drop. I hate that because I stashed him. I waited. We played. We tried. He looked like he was getting better, and then he's kind of leveled off a little bit. And maybe he gets better as the year goes on, but it doesn't look like we're that close to it, and he's not himself right now. I do think that eventually he gets better. I just have no idea when that'll happen because it's very open-ended in a way that, like with D'Lo, you know how the thing would get better. He's healthy. He just like something needs to change considerably. With Bogdanovich, I don't know that he's even healthy. Well, we move along. By the way, I know we all love him, and I know we drafted him at basically everywhere because this show and half of the guests we had on this show all had Dyson Daniels as like the top flyer to take. But he's very much a sell high and has been for weeks. So, if you can get like a top 40 guy for Dyson Daniels, you should be doing it. Milwaukee is a story of nothing at this point. Bobby Portis is on one of his little warmer stretches, and usually that kind of knocks Brook Lopez down a peg or so. But everything else is kind of a move along. And then Chris Middleton is the only floating note for the Bucks. We need him to clear 24, 25 minutes before we put him into a lineup. Simple as that. And he ain't there yet. But I don't think he's that far away, by the way, on the Middleton front. Like, I think we're probably, I would think by Christmas, he's probably playable. That's not too bad. Houston and OKC, the Thunder, man. What a well-oiled machine that team is. Their offseason moves are paying off in droves. The fact that they're still this good without arguably their, what do we think, second, third best player in Chet Holmgren? I don't know. Shea's better. Is Holmgren better than Jalen Williams? I don't know. Doesn't matter. 20-5, though. Just steamrolling teams with defense and efficiency. For the Rockets, they're the Rockets are the Rockets. We kind of have an idea of what they are. Amen Thompson had a better ball game here. Basically took like every bench minute, so that's cool. And that's why we keep looking at him like, man, I know he's kind of a tough guy to hang on to, but like one guy, just one guy get hurt or in foul trouble or anything at all, pops him loose. Tari Eason has, not surprisingly, come back to earth a little bit. You knew that steal rate wasn't going to hold. He was at like 2-point-something steals in 22 minutes a game. But he's still great. He's still top 55 right now. So you're hanging on to Eason even with the ever so slight downtick. Thunder. Lou Dort had his first good game, honestly, in a while, but he's been able to hang on to fantasy value because he's at 0.6 turnovers. So 9-cat, he's, your back end guy. And I'm fine if you wanted to start Lou Dort in 9-cat. He serves a perfectly reasonable purpose. And he's not that heavily rostered because he's boring. But he's warming back up again after a really, really cold snap. Yeesh. Like, he was real bad for, what was it? About 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He had about an 8-game stretch there where he was god-awful. He started the year bad. Then he had like 6 games where he was good. Then he was bad for 3. Then he was good for 5. Then he was bad for 8. Now he's been good for 3 again. He's streaky. But he is out there on waiver wires. If you need a streaky guy that's probably going to settle into this kind of like top of the filler level guys. The guys at the top of the filler bowl are useful, particularly if your team is hurt. That's when you could really use those. In any event, Cason Wallace, 32 more minutes. He wasn't that great in this ball game, but he's playing. It seems like the Thunder have kind of settled on 5 guys right now. And in my mind, all 5 of those guys should be getting played. Not that it matters either. Well, first of all, Alex Caruso, 19 and a half minutes. He's not an ad. We were hoping he could consistently get up to 24, 25. No. Isaiah Hartenstein, 21 points in this game. Can you even imagine Tom Thibodeau, what his last 17 hairs would fall out if he took 12 shots? Oh, man. Tibbs hated when his defensive centers were taking shots. That was going to end him. Let's go back to Friday. I think there's we still got 14 teams left. I better pick up the pace here. Oh, no, that's not true. Wait, did Indiana play twice over the weekend? Is Indy the one team that had a couple in there? No. Did I screw this up? Oh, I did screw it up. It's not that everybody played Friday through Sunday. I got that wrong. Everybody plays Saturday through Monday. Oh, raspberries. All right, so who haven't we talked about yet? There's a handful of teams here we haven't talked about yet. Philly we haven't talked about. Joel Embiid got his sinuses fractured. That seems fun. Blech. He's out already. We don't know exactly how long he's going to be out. Jared McCain is out for basically the year. Tore his meniscus. He might be back like at the very, very end, but he's pretty much cooked for a while. So the Sixers are cut down to their prime again. Paul George and Tyrese Maxey are going to do a ton. I would certainly add Kelly Oubre while all these other guys are out. So do a quick check on your waiver wire to see if he still might be floating around post-weekend. I mean, he is. He's only 35% rostered, so that means he's available in some places. I don't think I would go anywhere else in weekly or roto. Schedule-wise, the Sixers actually do have a pretty good schedule this week, so Andre Drummond might be interesting. I don't think I would go Yabusele. It seems like he's fallen a little bit out of favor, but I guess you never know. And then if Caleb Martin happens to show up, he would be another guy to look at, but it doesn't look like he's ready to go yet. So the hell with that. Cleveland is another one we got to talk about, although there isn't a whole lot to talk about there. Evan Mobley was out, but he's expected to be back. Max Strus is close to coming back. Not that matters for 12-teamers. And so that pushes the Cavs back into a, you pretty much know what to do here kind of team. And Charlotte. Ooh, Mark Williams started. I think we may have talked about that on our weekend review show. Mark Williams started on Friday. He had 15 and 9 with a block in 17 and a half minutes. And yes, obviously, as his minutes continue to increase, his energy expenditure per minute is going to go down. So he's not going to do as much in every moment he's on the court. But if this wasn't hey guys, my hands are flashing right now for those that are listening after the fact. My blinking hands are, hey guys, Mark Williams is still our guy. It's not Nick Richards. This was certainly the moment to remind you all of that. LaMelo Ball might be back for this next ball game. He's questionable for tonight. That would punt Vasilije Micic into the sun finally, which I don't know. I guess I was being a dick. Micic has been fine as an assist streamer while Ball's been out, but I don't like his full 9-cat game, and now we can go back to not being super worried about it. Miles Bridges is also back. Hornets are getting their bodies in there. Now we hope that they can actually stay healthy. Trey Mann is out for a little bit longer, but I don't care. Do I start Mark Williams yet? Probably not. I think I'd like to see him very consistently crack 20 minutes before I drop him into a games cap lineup. But you're at the point now where you can certainly play him in head-to-head. And Charlotte has a good schedule to start the week. They have 3 games, I think, the first 4 or 5 days, 5 or 6 days this week. So then you have an opportunity to stream later if you wanted to. So Mark Williams is not quite there. Miles Bridges is also very close. I think he's working his way off a minutes cap as well. If you wanted to play him, you probably could. Miles Bridges is a probably then. Brandon Miller's a yes. LaMelo, if he plays, is a yes. And that's about as far as you go right now. But again, Mark Williams, not far away. Vooch missed a ball game, but he's expected to play in the next one, so that ruins the Jalen Smith fun, which was short-lived but very fun. 11-11 and 5 blocks. Ayo Dosunmu had another really good shooting game. Someone tweeted at me. They were like, nah, he's not hot right now. He's just good. I'm like, okay, I can't get into a battle of 140 characters on this. But Dosunmu was shooting like 44%. And so there was always an upward, aggression. There was always an upward reversion coming for him because he was on a cold streak to start the year. And now he's back where we expected, which is 50% from the field. That's his number. The way he's gotten there has been dip, peak, valley, peak. That's how some guys get there. This is where he's at. Ayo's number 112 right now. This is what you should expect out of him unless a usage guy gets moved. So king of the fillers for Dosunmu. I have no problem if you put him on a roster because if anything, again, we're in this sort of like if it pops loose zone. If something pops loose for Dosunmu, great. Then he becomes really useful. But until then, he's a fringe level guy on a heater right now. No other notes on Chicago. It's good to see Josh Giddey finally getting going. We had him on our buy low list like 4 weeks ago, and now it's finally starting to work. But you had to wait on that one. Let's see. We talked Lakers and Wolves. We haven't talked Brooklyn yet. They're an interesting one because no Schroeder now, and he's been their biggest usage guy with Cam Thomas out. And they brought back D'Anthony Melton, who's out for the season. So from a fantasy standpoint, this is delightful for Brooklyn. But what we don't really know is what the hell's going to happen. I think the general consensus is that Shake Milton is probably going to pick up some stuff, at least in the near term. When Cam Thomas comes back, everything is going to get the snow globe is going to get shook again. So it could be Keon Johnson at that point. It could be more Ben Simmons. It's really not that clear. It could be Jalen Wilson sliding down. We don't exactly know. So everybody's racing out to pick up Shake Milton. And I'm the guy over here going, what about Dorian Finney-Smith? I know it sounds like I'm joking, but I'm not actually joking. The Finney-Smith stuff is like the reason that he's never really hit fantasy value is that he won't take any shots. But the rest of his fantasy stuff is actually like kind of okay most of the time. This year he's number 116 while taking 8 shots a game. With Schroeder gone, I don't know that he's going to have a choice but to take more than 8 shots. He took 8 in this last ball game, but Schroeder was still there. So could it be Dorian? It could be. Could it be Shake? It could be Shake. We know Cam Johnson's going to do a bunch of stuff, although I don't know that having no point guard is going to be good for him. He might have needed him. It's probably going to help Ben Simmons in some small way. And my guess about what's going to happen here, and you can go back to this show and see how close I get. My guess is that it's going to be like a different guy every game until Cam Thomas comes back. And it's going to rotate. There will be a Ben Simmons game where you're like, oh, he's the guy. And then he'll suck in the next one and he'll get dropped. And then there will be a Shake Milton game who probably scores a fair amount until Cam Thomas comes back, but his other stuff will probably fluctuate, and Finney Smith's game will fluctuate. And at the end of it, you might not end up with anyone that you really want on your team every day. Or, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is Shake Milton for a couple of weeks here. I think I would probably, if you have dead weight, I think I would pick up Shake Milton. Who's Shake Wilton? That's me flipping the first letter in his last name upside down. I think I would probably pick him up just to see how the next, 3-4 games go until Cam Thomas most likely gets closer. And he has the ability to put up some point guard stuff. That's the other reason why. Some of these other guys might take more shots, but if they're not rebounding or getting assists consistently, then it's not going to translate as well to 9-cat. Milton is the one where you're like, yeah, but if we give him 30 minutes and he scores 14, 15 points, he might also get you 6 assists. That's where he gets over the cut line. And with Finney Smith, you'll get boards, steals, blocks, threes. We just need to make sure that he's taking 9, 10, 11 shots a game instead of 8. And that's how he pushes inside the top 100. So there's a few guys there that are close. That's probably the way that I would operate, at least in the very short term. Clippers, no notes. We're starting to get updates on Kawhi. It sounds like he's, within weeks of returning instead of months now. So that's a good thing. Otherwise, no. Denver, you're back to the starters. Christian Brown is questionable. So if he's out, you probably get a little more out of a Julian Strawther or a Peyton Watson, but that's more of a schedule play type of dude. Aaron Gordon has, not surprisingly, tapered off after his very hot start and then injury. So traditional 9-cat, obviously Jokic, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., those are the easy ones. Christian Brown, when he's healthy, he's in there. Gordon is your punt free throw guy, and then the other guys beyond him, like Russ, Watson, Strawther, those are schedule level dudes. Utah. This is a nice one for them because they actually scored a bunch. Still, Lauri Markkanen at 9 shots is not even remotely close to enough. He needs to be more involved on offense. And maybe it's just the fact that he's got this sore back. It's not really pushing it all that hard. Normally, I would say go get him. I have to admit, I'm a little bit worried that this is just a thing that they're going to be nursing throughout the year. He's going to be better than number 82 because the field goal percentage is probably going to come up, and I would think the usage probably ticks up a little bit. But there's going to be days off regularly for him. I think Market is a guy I would say buy low if you're in Roto. Head-to-head, it's more iffy. Coin flip on the buy low. John Collins just keeps rolling along. Same story as usual. If you can get a top 50 guy for him, you do it on the fear that things get unplugged in Utah. And Colin Sexton is just not good at fantasy basketball. He needed a ton of usage last year to finally get there because his game doesn't translate all that well. He pretty much scores only. He doesn't assist very well. Doesn't get many defensive stats. At least the free throw percent has been good so far this year. But he's number 177. You got to be punting steals, assists, I guess. I don't know. It's been bad. But there's the other thing there where what if they trade Jordan Clarkson? What if they trade John Collins? What if they shut down Lauri Markkanen? There's all these ways that Sexton could get better. What if they trade Colin Sexton? I think you can drop him. Truth be told, I think you can drop him because I don't think his path to jumping back to value is as multi-dimensional as some of the other guys that we try to hang on to longer. Sexton needs a very clear path, and it's far away right now because Clarkson was out for a while, and Sexton still wasn't very good. He was better, but he wasn't inside the top 100. Kind of needs Keontae George to go down, and he seems fine. Dude seems healthy to me. We talked Spurs. We talked Blazers. Is that it? I think that might be it. How long did it take us? 40 minutes? All right. I've done better. I've done worse. Thanks for watching, everybody. That's your week end recap. That is your reverse chronological lightning round Monday edition of Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. We'll try to get back with you later today with a secondary episode, a special one. We're going to come up with something new, perhaps, or something that maybe I've only done once. I don't know. We've done enough buy low, sell high shows that I'd like to just leave those to the guests right now. So stay tuned, subscribe. That's how you'll get the next thing we do. And I will talk to you when I figure out what the hell show I want to put out later today. How's that for great planning? Find me on Twitter, please, at Dan Besbris. We do a lot of work over on social media. DANBESBRIS. Again, like, rate, subscribe. And, just check out other stuff we got going on here at Old Man Squad. Until later, hasta la vista. That was a bad ending.